Marvel versus DC. So many arguments, but only one well, no, not one controversy, but still, only two things: Marvel and DC. Always the debate of which is better, which does better, but you never really truly decide that because it's always based on opinion. However, there are definitely things that Marvel does better, but DC does better. Let's go ahead and see what they do better. I just said better like 4 times in less than a minute. Anyway, how I'm going to be splitting this up is by 4 categories: music, characters, movies, and video games. So let's get started. So, Marvel pretty much wins this round in a landslide, and here's why. Marvel characters are relatable. DC characters, not all of them, but most of them are completely just separate and just not relatable. Marvel characters were made to be human first and superheroes second, while DC characters are not just superheroes, but most of them are actual gods, just living among humans. And for that reason, Marvel gets this point. But here's why. Marvel characters, like Spider-Man, are meant to be relatable. They're supposed to be characters that readers or watchers, depending on its comic or movie or whatever, they're supposed to relate to that character. DC characters are literal gods. Some versions of characters from DC are more relatable than others, like Batman or the Flash, because they're human, but it's not just that. For example, characters like Silver Surfer, one of the most overpowered characters in the entire Marvel Universe, has flaws, has emotions, and that's why fans like him. For that reason, this is why Marvel gets the first point. Okay, so this is pretty much an entirely different argument at this point, because Marvel has some good iconic themes, and so does DC. But DC gets this point because, okay, name one superhero. Just one. Alright, I'm not talking about teams like the Avengers. Name one superhero from Marvel, besides Spider-Man, who has a unique theme song. Oh, wait. Yeah, exactly. None. 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 Meanwhile, from DC, we have Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and I'd even say The Flash, considering he now has a theme song of his own. Granted, it did come in the form of a show, but still, if you watch the show long enough, you know what his theme song is. Come on. Even the Green Arrow has a theme song now. So, there is that. But, honestly, Marvel doesn't have that many theme songs, or that many theme songs that I can think of right off the top of my head. Honestly, this point, this round kind of went to DC, regardless. Even if I could think of another superhero besides Spider-Man that had a theme song, I couldn't, because even if they did have a theme song of their own, it's not memorable. I'm sure you can say, if you wanted to factor in teams, you have X-Men, Avengers, but still, pretty much pointless. So this point goes to Dragon Ball, because they have the best music. Don't at me.
Don't stop, we're in luck now. Don't stop, there's so much to be found. We can't find paradise. All we have to do is go, free your soul.
Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that DC has no good games, because they have. In fact, I've played more DC games in my entire life than I have Marvel games. However, that's not to say Marvel doesn't have any good games, or that all of DC's games are good. In fact, pretty much every game that Marvel has ever released is good, for the exception of Ultimate Alliance 3. We're not going to talk about that. However, Marvel is definitely planning to bring their A game up. Since the release of Marvel Spider-Man and its acceptance to the public, why am I speaking like this? Anyway, since Spider-Man PS4's large popularity and definitely the payoff that it got and the good reception, it's clear that Marvel is definitely going to be putting out video games now. I'd say that we are definitely in an age where there is absolutely no one who has no idea what Marvel or DC is. Everybody knows what they are. And even if they don't, they know the superheroes. So, Marvel's going to be throwing out games, and that means that DC is also going to be throwing out games more to keep up with them or surpass them. However, DC, like I said earlier, has more games, but that doesn't mean that all of their games are good. After all, most of their games consist of Batman. That's it. There's a few Superman games in there too, and there were plans to get other superhero games off the ground. But there's not that many DC games that are good or well known. Marvel games, on the other hand, there are even Marvel apps that get commercials and things like that, ads on YouTube. And there have been announces for an Avengers game project, along with a confirmed sequel to Spider-Man PS4, which many people were looking forward to, and definitely can't wait to get their hands on it. So, who wins this? Who gets this point for this round? I'm gonna have to say Marvel. I'm just gonna have to say Marvel, because while DC is definitely trying to keep up with them and put out their own games, Marvel is just throwing games out here left and right. They got us Marvel Spider-Man, PS4. They announced a sequel. There are multiple DLCs for Marvel Spider-Man to keep the hype going. While for Batman, really, all of the Batman games, or just any DC games in general, have little to no DLC, and even if they do, that only keeps the game's popularity going for around, I'd say, 2 months after its release. Where Spider-Man PS4, that just really kept the popularity going for at least, I'd say, 5 to 6 months, like half a year almost. And I know I shouldn't just be comparing one Marvel game to one DC game, but the fact is, the Batman games are the most popular DC games, and Spider-Man PS4 has definitely been confirmed to be the most high superhero game, just not just Marvel, but just anything. Just search it up for yourself. Okay. I don't think I even have to explain why Marvel gets this point, but I will anyway. Marvel started making movies. Their very first movie was absolute garbage. But so was DC's. But then Marvel tried again and failed. And again and failed. But then something magical happened. In 2008, they hired an actor named Robert Downey Jr. to play a superhero called Iron Man. Now, the rest is absolute history, and we're still living in that history. Because a Marvel movie literally just came out like 4 days ago, as of me recording this. And I don't think I need to say this, but Marvel has taken their time. They've released movies, some of them good, some of them bad, but now Marvel knows what it's supposed to be and what it wants to be, and more importantly, what the fans want it to be. DC, on the other hand, DC is lacking. It's lacking multiple things, and I hope that they can make that up with Shazam coming out soon. But look, it doesn't look good for you when the actors playing important characters, not like side characters like Alfred or um, Perry White from the Daily Planet, not like side characters like those, but important characters like Batman, Ben Affleck, when they don't want to play their characters, then that's kind of raising a lot of red flags. Because Marvel, their actors want to play those roles. They want to be a part of Marvel. DC, it's not even just that. They're actually rushing into things. They don't know how to properly do it yet. And that's not to say that it's all bad. For example, the animated movies like Flashpoint Paradox, and even though, in unpopular opinion, Aquaman, blah blah blah, Atlantis, I think those are good movies. And multiple other people think that those are also good movies. So clearly they know what they're doing when it comes to the animated stuff, but just not the movie stuff. Even in the CW shows like The Flash and Arrow, even though those are shows and not movies, still good. But Marvel definitely does get this point. Even when it's just like no movies, just TV shows, they still get the point, because compared to Daredevil or The Punisher or Jessica Jones, The Flash and Arrow are just nothing compared to those. Marvel knows what it's supposed to be and knows what it wants to be. DC is still unsure. They're still rushing. I was skeptical, and I know I wasn't the only one who was skeptical of a Justice League movie coming out just 1 year after like the horrible movie that was Batman v Superman. They should have waited. I didn't expect to see it for another 10 years. And I shouldn't have gotten it. No one should have gotten it. Because it was bad. It was just awful. I only saw it twice. And, I don't think that you should base your opinion off of something by only experiencing once. But, honestly, just DC isn't sure what it wants to be when it comes to their cinematic universe. Marvel does know what it wants to be because it's failed time and time again, but it's also taken notes. Like, okay, we shouldn't do this, we should do this. Yes, correct. DC just isn't able to do that yet. Certain movies so far, like Wonder Woman and, of course, Aquaman, have done great, so they know what they're supposed to be doing. Hopefully Shazam will know what it's also supposed to be doing. But I just don't have to explain, really, even though I already did, why Marvel wins this round and wins the whole thing. Marvel's characters are relatable. Marvel has good video games. It's music. They're like theme songs. Not completely there yet, but that's really it. That's all that really has to be explained here. Marvel just does it better overall. Anyway, what a long intro, am I right?